And now let's look at our currency, the Naira, the performance in the first half of the year, or in the last month, June, that's just concluded. And so we saw that we started this year with the Naira trading at 1,475 Naira for a dollar. That's on the NAFEM, officially exchanged for 1,473 to a dollar. And then by July, yesterday, it's closed at 1,529 Naira for a dollar. So we've seen a level of stability. And a lot of people have said this is a new normal, looking at the Naira at under 1,600. I wonder if that is comfortable with you. But let's speak to the Chief Executive Officer of Finance with Mukhtar, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed. Let's get his views on this. Mr. Mohammed, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So it looks like the Naira has found its level because we've seen it just hover under 1,006 since the beginning of the year. Can we just accept it? This is it. Are we comfortable with this? What are the implications?
Again, I always say that the Naira has found its level in what for me a corridor of stability. Not really that the Naira has found its really level. Like you rightly pointed out in your report, the beginning of the year, we saw the Naira 1,475, and we've seen it closed yesterday at 1,529 official. That's the official rate. Well, you say that the Naira has found a corridor of stability for the past 3 months because we've seen it gone to 1,600 and now we are seeing it at 1,525. It seems to be that we just maintain that corridor. Like that's why I say it's a corridor of stability. So I don't think the Naira really found its place yet. For me, I think the Naira still has a long journey to go. When you look at economic variable, you look at international politics or international trade, how it will affect the Naira going forward, especially when you look at the crisis that we have in the Middle East and also the issue that have to do with trade in America, the American government with other world economies. All those will turn back to have an effect on the Naira. But again, if you are looking from where we are coming from, then you could say that the Naira has done pretty fair in the half year if we look at where we are coming from. But again, like I said, the Naira has not even been able to hit the budget benchmark of 1,500. So we need to be carefully optimistic because any external shock would definitely see the Naira going down against the dollar. And we are not so sure that we have any coping mechanism to guide against that as it stands for now.
Mukhtar, when you say that the Naira still has, a long way to go, what direction, the positive, the negative, which way do you see it going?
It depends on microeconomic policies and also it depends on world events because again, now our major earnings is crude oil. And if you look at our budget benchmark of $75 per barrel, and they are looking at what you said at the close, when you are analyzing the oil market, it's about $65. So we are already $10 short of our oil benchmark. And that will have huge effect on our currency in terms of meeting FX, our reserve. And you've seen that what you've seen thus far, where you see the Naira, you've seen that a lot of intervention from the CBN and also foreign direct investors or foreign portfolio investors mostly have been what have created those stability. So once there's any shock, definitely that will affect the Naira. So that's why I say the Naira still have a long way to go. Before I will probably say the Naira have found its level, I think it's when you see the Naira stay at a certain point for about 6, 7, or 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years, like what we normally obtain before now. And also, you also shouldn't forget that the CBN said they want to make the Naira more competitive. That was a new language that we saw. And so they are not looking at stability of the Naira, they are looking at competitiveness of the Naira to attract foreign portfolio investors or foreign direct investors. It's only after that has been achieved that they will begin to think about stability of the Naira. So for now, I think they are more interested in competitive nature of the Naira. So that's why I said the Naira still have a long way to go. When you say something is competitive, that means you definitely have the ups and the downs of those currency before you finally maintain stability.
Bringing in that word competitive also, it does paint a picture because we saw the Chinese yuan being devalued, to attract more export. We now see the dollar, the US dollar, also losing its value. We haven't been told if it's deliberate or if it's just the factors playing it down. But I mean, we know that once a currency is devalued, then exports becomes cheaper and they're supposed to increase. So in Nigeria's case now, I mean, what are we exporting really? Is this, do we need to toe this path of China and the US, or what are the other options for us?
You can't tell the part of the US and China because again, 90% of what they produce they consume. I mean, and also they are able to produce what they consume. Rather, here we are seeing about 60 to 70% what we consume, we do not produce, we bring it, and sometimes to put it into finished product, we have to import machineries in that will make it into finished product. So we don't have that capability to deliberately devalue our currency. We can't, because again, if we do that, that will also make Nigeria a dumping ground for, especially for African product. So definitely we can't go that route as it stands now. What we need to do, I think that's why the CBN is saying, want to make the Naira competitive to attract more investors, especially foreign investors, whether foreign portfolio or foreign direct investors. I think that's what they are definitely looking at now. And if you look at in terms of the non-oil sector, you realize that in terms of percentage, the non-oil sector has been performing very well in terms of addition to percentage to the GDP. But when it comes of value, in terms of exchange value, in terms of monetary value, you see that the crude oil is still the major source of that monetary value. So we have to do a lot, and in that thing we are going to be looking at the other aspect of the non-oil sector, which we've not been able to really take advantage of. And the main reason why we can't do that is lack of infrastructure. So we definitely want to work on our infrastructure so that it will make most of our non-oil good more competitive, because cost of production definitely makes it more expensive in the market. So definitely, I think what we need to do is to improve on that. But majorly, I think what the CBN is looking at is to see how they can attract more investors into the Nigerian market. That's why they are saying that they want the Naira to be competitive.
So I guess we can connect this to the reforms, the ongoing reforms. And at the just concluded Afrexim Bank meetings, some representatives of the States says Nigeria is on the right path with the reforms, but there's still more to be done. So Nigerians should buckle up for more hard times. So how much more reform do you think the country needs for us to be able to see the gains in the macro, which the numbers show, move to the micro? Or is it just the issue of leakages? Because that has also been brought in as a factor that's deterring that transition from macro to micro.
And you hit the nail there, leakage. I think that's one. When you look at leakages in Nigeria, you look at cost of governance. Cost of governance is still very, very high. And so that's one way of leakages that we are saying. We've not been able to balance our economy to look at, to begin to play the pace whereby we look at the area for PPP, public-private partnership. So our scarce resources are still being used for infrastructural development. I think that those are part of what we need to do. Those are part of that what will block leakages. Because sometimes when you look at these leakages that come from, they come through these political appointees in terms of the allowances, and also leakages that come as a result of projects, which sometimes the figures are inflated. So those are part of the leakages that we need to really deal with. Now, when you talked about the hard times, you see, this current administrative policy, economic policy of the current administration, tend to come from the up to the down. So it's not yet touching the down, because again, a lot of people that benefit from these administration policies are the ups, those up there, you really see the rich, because again, they are able to take advantage in terms of investment, because investment relatively become very cheap when you look at the exchange rate by the Naira. So those are the ones that are taking advantage and seems to be making a lot of headway. And that also is not good for the economy. But when you look at the bottom, the real Nigerians that are feeling the bunch, most of what they are supposed to enjoy, let me give you an example, in the removal of subsidy. We are seeing that price have oscillated. We've seen at that removal, it was about 1,100 in Lagos. We have seen it come as low as 825 naira. But the transportation costs in terms of movement of goods and services has also not come down. So that has not helped those people in the downtrodden. So, and again, their means of earning have not really improved. You just talked about the report that was brought in by Stanbic IBTC. When you look at those businesses, when you look at those businesses that are definitely now, you realize that it's the SMEs, it's the smaller business, which are the larger employer of labor, and they are those that employ this down the bottom half of Nigerians that are so prepared for it. I think for now, what it means is that this policy is not yet trickling down to the masses. So it's still there. So that's why they're saying Nigerians should prepare for more hard times. And especially when the exchange rate is still a major challenge, because we still have to come down to that place aspect, because that also determines the cost of goods and services in Nigeria.
Sir, could you help us paint a picture of how these leakages and high cost of governance is denying Nigerians of the benefits of the reforms? You know, if you could give an example, how it is stopping that benefit from flowing.
You know, we don't have those figures. They don't give us those figures. But all you need to do, you need to look at the cabinets. And again, you need to look at how many people travel with Mr. President. And you need to look at our government entourage. You see the numbers of cars that goes with them when they travel. So definitely that will give you an idea of what we talk about leakages, especially the area of political appointees. You don't even need to go far again. When you look at the budget, the two budget that are running, realize that most of this budget, recurrent expenditure is not suffering anything. It's capital expenditure that tend to create job for more the lower end of Nigerians that are really suffering. Their cash are not being released because government is saying there are also no funds for that. Then when you talk about other leakages, now you look at a project, sometimes you look at some of these projects that are being implemented with government for scarce resources. I'll give you an example. If you are doing a Hugos project like the Calabar Coastal Road, I expect that those roads should be driven largely by PPP, public-private partnership. We have not seen that, and we've seen the president that commissioned, I think, 39 kilometers of that road, and it seems that work is still in that road. So those are major leakages. We put in so much money in there, but again, you don't even have the resources to complete it. And even with what you have completed, you are not earning anything from it yet. So I think, for me, those are some of the major leakages. And you also look at insecurity also. It's pouring a lot of leakages in Nigeria because, again, you have to deal with the bandits. You have to improve. I mean, you have to improve security, and improving security comes a lot of costs. And sometimes some of these costs are also inflated. So those are part of the leakages that we are suffering. Because when I talk about that, I don't know if you followed the news yesterday. You look at Rivers State and where the budget that was submitted by the administrator of Rivers State, and the House was questioning the budget that, how can you say you want to provide speedboats, about 30 billion for speedboats alone? Those are type of the leakages that there seems not to be a synergy to know that some certain aspect of project have to be federal government project, not state government. Those are part of the leakages that we have seen, and those are what are affecting our economy at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I know that, the Rivers budget is also another conversation. But let me read something. Mr. Mukhtar, currency in circulation, we see, climbed to 5.015 trillion naira in May, marking a modest increase from about 5 trillion in April. And this is according to the central bank. The 0.24% uptick points to continued liquidity buildup in the system, despite the Apex Bank's tightening stance. So sometimes it's confusing. Yesterday, we also saw the news that deposits from banks to the central bank has increased. Now we're seeing that currency circulation is still ticking up. So where is it? I mean, the central bank is very tough on its stance to mop up. The manufacturers are feeling the pain, but we still see currency in circulation. Where is it coming from?
There are always three players in the market. We mustn't forget. We have investors, we have traders, and we have speculators. They are part of the market. So when sometimes when I hear the CBN say we are going to go again, we are going to go after currency speculators, and I say they are part of the market. Globally, they are part of the market. The only way you deal with them is for them to get their fingers burned. So they definitely see opportunities especially when they look at what is happening in the oil market. Despite the price that we saw some weeks ago, we're not able to take advantage of it because, again, our production is still very low due to oil theft. These are signal to them sometimes to currency speculators that the Naira has not found its level because we don't have the resources to definitely intervene when we have to intervene. So when people are not doing the right thing and thinking, oh, the only way you can deal with currency speculators is to take them up, arrest them, it will
Like
you remember at the time
okay.
the NM was going after currency speculators, and I mean through the EFCC they were going after currency speculators, but at the end of the day, it didn't achieve anything there.
Network glitch there with Mr. Mukhtar.
So what I would get to they are a global part of the market, so they will definitely continue to be part of the global market continuously.
So, Mr. Mukhtar, how do you think?
Yes.
What are some of the first steps you think? Because I mean, the CBN for the fiscal policy, they've received a lot of applause even before now. What else should they do or can they do, to not to tighten more, but to close those gaps that you've noticed?
I mean, there's nothing more you can do in an economic like this that is driven by FX volatility than to improve liquidity. We've said it over and over, and I will say it over and over again. The challenge with the market has absolutely nothing to do so much with what is happening. We have a lot to do with liquidity. You talked about the manufacturer. If the manufacturers are able to assess FX as when due, definitely they won't have a challenge. They will definitely, that means you've been able to address that area of liquidity. Liquidity remains the challenge, and this challenge is there, and we are not seeing it coming down anytime soon. When you look at the means whereby we earn revenue, as I've said it over and over, through crude oil sales, we are not even meeting our OPEC quota. You looked at one of the world largest single trade refinery, Dangote, importing crude oil even now to be able to meet their own production level. So we are not meeting it. Internally, we are not meeting it. Externally, we are not meeting it. So that's a challenge. You look at remittance with the current tightening of immigration globally. Remittance also are having their own challenges. So we are not getting inflow like we used to have. Foreign direct investors are not yet coming because before they come to your market, there must be stability in the exchange rate. The foreign portfolio investors are coming, but if you look at the data from the Nigerian Stock Exchange that was released, you realize that the number that comes in sometimes the numbers that go out are higher than the numbers that comes in. So there's still a lot to do, and what we need to do is to improve liquidity. Is either the CBN come up with policies or with products that will attract more investors, especially in Nigeria in the diaspora. That would be the game changer. We have done Eurobond, we have done a lot of Eurobond, but we are not seeing those effects. We have done borrowing through forward sales of crude oil. We have not been able to stabilize the exchange because Nigerians, especially the manufacturing sector, still depend more on FX to be able to meet demand. So we need to improve liquidity in that sector.
Mr. Mukhtar, isn't it possible to need less of FX? Maybe manufacturers will look inwards more and use domestic raw materials. Wouldn't that reduce the demand for FX and then kind of find a balance for the currency?
I said something. I said, yes, we could do that. But what about the machinery to make it into a finished product? Do you have the steel industry to be able to fabricate such machineries? And how long does it take to get such machineries? You look at the larger manufacturing sector, they have been able to build independence plan. Most of if not for that, cost of some of these goods would have gone higher than where it is. But you can imagine if a place like Lafarge is paying for power from a power holding company, you could imagine what the cost of production will be. So definitely in doing that, it could be, it's not a short-time measures. It has to be a long-term strategy. Because again, you need to develop your steel sector if you want to look inwardly, to be able to have fabricate machines that will be able to make these products into finished products. So it's not a day job. So it's not something that you can achieve within 2 to 3 months, because our steel, despite having the largest depot in terms of steel, we've not been able to take advantage of that sector.
Mukhtar, thank you so much for helping us to understand the different perspective and different possibilities and prospects around the Naira. Chief Executive Officer of Finance with Mukhtar, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed.
Thank you for having me.